guess. One fine day in 15th century, a Portuguese trader brought a disease to India. In the next 5 centuries, Indians ensured that it spread throughout our country. And in the 21st century, I see a 5-year-old poor female child. She belongs to the slum. She carries her brother in her arms like this. She's walking briskly towards her mother, trying to balance her body so that she doesn't fall down. Her mother is abusing her all the way long just because she's late in bringing a packet of gutta. Tobacco in India is consumed in 3 major forms. The first being gutta, which is low quality tobacco. The second being bidi, which is again low quality tobacco. And the third being cigarettes, the so-called high quality blended tobacco. As per the government views on the amount of revenue generated and the employment opportunity provided, we may call it as India shining. But friends, let me tell you, we are being trapped in a vicious circle. Now, let's have a look at what all our government did in the past few centuries, past few decades to curb the spread of this disease. The first thing was ban on public smoking. When I was a child and I used to enter a train, there used to be those small ashtrays near the window seat. I used to play with them as a child. But after the ban on public smoking, those ashtrays were removed. But people still smoke in public. It's because fines are difficult to impose because of lack of manpower. Because they cannot smoke in train openly, what they do is they either go to the washroom to smoke or they stand near the gate, thereby posing a greater threat to their lives. The second thing that the government did was ban on tobacco advertising, to which the tobacco industry responded by diversifying their business into various fields. Like you all have heard of Wills. So they entered into Wills lifestyle. Foursquare was a cigarette brand. It changed into Foursquare cricket gear. The third thing that the government did was the picture messages that should be displayed on every tobacco product. Though they have worked, but not to a greater extent. The fourth thing they did was to show disclaimer message before showing the use of tobacco in any media. Ma'am, when was the last time you went for a movie?
I was on Saturday.
And to which multiplex did you go?
DT Cinemas.
So, were you lucky enough to see those ads about the use of tobacco and smoking?
Yes.
And was anyone there with you who uses tobacco products?
Yes.
And what was the reaction to those ads?
As if I care.
Okay.
This was his reply to me.
And you remember at the start of my speech, I pointed out about that female child and her family. How often do they get a chance to visit a multiplex?
Never.
Never. So why not broadcast these advertisements on television at least once an hour on all the television channels? It will have a widespread reach. Now, let's leave what all the government did. Now, let's talk about what all, in particular, the cigarette industry did. Earlier, till 1950s, we used to have cigarettes without filter. Now, one organization in the United States said that the cigarette causes cancer, but the industry was hesitant to have a ban on this. What they did was, they used these cotton filters. Now, there is a very particular way in which this filter works on 2 different occasions. The International Organization for Standardization has made a machine that counts the amount of tar generated while a cigarette is being smoked. So that machine has a holder which holds the cigarette like this, and it takes puffs at a constant rate and after a specified interval of time. So, when a cigarette without a filter, which is like this, is smoked, it naturally will get consumed at a faster rate because it doesn't have a filter. But when a cigarette having a filter is being smoked, because of the properties of cotton, less amount of smoke enters that machine and the tar content generated is less. But let me show you the difference when people smoke a cigarette that is having a filter and the one that is not having a filter. Now, generally, a cigarette which is not having a filter will be smoked like this. Just a small puff. The reason being, it hits your throat. And when a cigarette that is having a filter is being smoked, it's smoked like this. The puffs are generally long, so the same amount of tobacco smoke enters your lungs. The same effect will be there in both the cases. Now let me ask you, what is the difference between these two cigarettes? Yeah. The color of the filter. Yes. So the tobacco industry didn't stop with the introduction of this filters itself. What they said was, these white color filtered cigarettes are called light cigarettes. So the butt of these cigarettes has small perforated holes inside them. And when these cigarettes are being tested in that machine provided by ISO, the cover on this filter is not present. So what happens is, when it is being consumed by that machine, fresh air enters through these perforated holes and only less quantity of smoke enters the machine. So the tar generated is again less. But when humans smoke it, it is being covered by this paper. So the same amount of tar enters your body, whether it is a mild cigarette or it is a light cigarette. Well, you have seen what the government and what the tobacco industry has done over the past few years. Now, let's see what can we do to stop this disease. The first thing, 10% of Indian workforce are street hawkers. The government just cannot ask them not to work at all. We can train them about the impacts that tobacco has, and we can ask them, boss, there are other ways to earn money in a healthy way. Please don't sell tobacco products. The second thing, ban all the cigarette sellers that are present in 1 kilometer radius around any educational institutes, because the age group from 15 to 23 years are the largest consumers of tobacco in India. And 3, as licensing was introduced for the liquor industry, introduce the same in tobacco industry. It will help in a lot of ways. Number 1, first, the shopkeeper should ask for an identity card. Second, he should swipe your card and that data will be recorded in a database. Suppose you may think that, what if I go there and I purchase 5 packets of cigarette? Let me tell you, if a person smokes a cigarette, it takes 10 minutes. So if a person consumes 20 cigarettes, it takes 200 minutes. If he consumes 40 cigarettes, it takes 400 minutes, which is more than 6 hours. So a person who smokes for more than 6 hours in a day is either a millionaire or a retired person. So in that way, you will come to know about the smoking habits of the people, and in this way, black marketing cannot get into this business. Friends, I would like to conclude my speech with a saying, darkness lies behind that white smoke that looks mesmerizing in the dark. Don't be fantasized by it. Thank you.
Tobacco sellers in, and the last point